Hey, welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast, which is representing Operation Startup. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline. Operation Startup is proud to be affiliated with the Neil Haley Show and sponsored by Spirit Point Solution. You're probably asking yourself, what is Spirit Point Solution? It's a one-stop shop for leading edge products, services, and training for multiple vendors. And we're talking all kinds of training here, from your AI training to corporate gifts and so much more in between. They have everything you need to help your organization thrive in a modern economy. So go on their website and check out all the valuable offers at spearpointonline.com. I'll say that again, spearpointonline.com. And when you're over there, use our code VET S.O.S on anything that you use. Anything you purchase there that will help us continue our mission of improving the lives of those who have served. On today's show, oh man, sorry. We have Mr. David Fivecoat. All right, that's a hell of a last name. And after 24 years of the U.S. Army paratrooper, as well as 4 combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, Colonel David Fivecoat, U.S. Army retired, founded the Fivecoat Consulting Group. He's the author of the book Grow Your Grit. He now develops leaders through executive coaching, keynote speeches, workshops, and battlefield-based leadership experiences, corporate staff rides. A native of Ohio, right? David Fivecoat. Go Bucks. He currently resides in Columbus, Georgia. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, Maurice. Thank you for having me on your show.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for joining us today. So let's take it back, a little trip back in time. So when you were getting ready to transition, and it was that time you had made the decision, you got your approval. What were the 3 biggest decisions that you learned in your transition from military life to what is civilian life, and how those lessons shape who you are today?
Yeah, so I retired in 2017 after 24 years of service. And of course, the last civilian job I had before that was I was a busboy at a restaurant. And so my experience with corporate America was not that extensive. But there's a couple things for all your listeners out there as they prepare to retire. First off, I think one of the biggest things to understand is you're used to being in the military and getting paid a check at the beginning of the month and mid-month, and the pension and the VA benefits both pay retroactively, so you don't get paid till the first of the month till after the month has expired. So for those folks that are getting ready to retire, you really need 45 days worth of cash on hand, because the last mid-month pay you're going to get, you won't get paid again until you get paid at the first of the month from your pension, if you're getting if you qualified for a pension, or if you're going to get VA benefits, those don't. That's a practical thing. Some things that helped me with the process, and some processes that transferred from the Army into the corporate world. I think the first thing is how well that the Army does processes. And whether it's from simple things like I was just talking to a guy about PMCSing a vehicle, which is the preventive maintenance checks and services that you do before you roll the vehicle out every time. Not that common in the civilian world, but you can take those ideas and those processes that either the Army or the Navy or the Marine Corps or the Air Force taught you, and apply those to the corporate world in your own life. Another big shock for me was that the Army, and I know the Joint Force does it as well, spends a lot of time defining words and making sure that everybody understands what those words mean. And I'll give you an example. For the Army, seize means that you actually have to put boots on the ground on whatever you say that you're going to seize. And secure means that you can actually stand off of whatever that thing that you're told to secure, and you can secure it with vision or fires or indirect assets or anything else. And so everybody understands, hey, if I tell a soldier to go secure something versus seize something, they know what to do differently. It's not that clear out in the corporate world, especially when you start talking leadership topics. I have been talking to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, and they will use strategy 3 different ways in the same sentence. And my internal Army side that likes things that are defined, I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder your team doesn't know where you're going, because you're using that word 3 different ways in a sentence. And so that is one of the other big shocks that's out there. But if you make sure that you understand how things are defined and pay attention to that, you'll be fine. The last one I'll throw out is, the Army was always big on doing PT, physical fitness, in the morning, and I have carried that habit on to my life after the Army, and I think that's one of the keys to success of making the transition, especially while you're going through that massive change, to continue getting good physical fitness, making sure you're getting your sleep and all those other good things, going to the dentist, getting your teeth checked on, all those things are helpful to help you handle this massive change, because for me at least, I spent 24 years doing Army stuff, and all of a sudden in my 40s, I'm shifting gears, and physical fitness helped me shift gears and make that transition.
Got you. So now, David, I mean, you're '06. You're a colonel in the Army. And most colonels '06 is even in the Navy or whatever branch, easily go get a corporate job. They have a buddy they know who can probably get them in the back door and get them a job, maybe being a government contractor or maybe being a GS. But you took a different route. I mean, you went the entrepreneur route. So take me back to that moment. What sparked up for you to be an entrepreneur? What was going on in your life at the time? What decided you to go that route instead of taking a safe route to get another corporate job?
Well, I tell all my friends that are thinking about transitioning out of the Army into something else, that if you want to go the entrepreneur route, and frankly, I encourage folks to go the entrepreneur route. One, you have a great safety net between, if you're getting the pension, you've got the pension, you may be getting VA benefits, and if you're retired, you're also you have access to incredibly cheap healthcare. And so you have this safety net that a lot of entrepreneurs don't have. But what I do tell folks is, go out and work in a real job. Doesn't matter what job it is, but you need to get into a company and see how a real company runs and thinks about money and thinks about human resources and benefits for a year or two, and then make the entrepreneur jump. That's what happened to me. I got out. I worked for a small company for 3 years, and then when COVID hit, I got let go. And that catalyst was the best thing that could have happened to me, because if I hadn't been let go from that company, I'd probably still be working for that company going, man, I should be an entrepreneur. I could run this thing better than these guys can. And so it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened. However, I would not recommend any of your listeners to starting their own company in March of 2020. It was a little bit of a brutal environment to start off in. There were some lean months, and so go work for somebody else for a year or two, figure out how a real business works, and then jump into the entrepreneur arena is what I advise my friends.
Got you. So we know that going into entrepreneur is some great times. So we have full autonomy. We can kind of hop on a podcast in the middle of the afternoon and do things like that. What's been the most rewarding part for you as far as being an entrepreneur? What's that one thing that lights you up every day when you wake up, feet on the ground? What's got you going?
Yeah, so my company, one of the main things that we do is we take corporate groups to battlefields and use the battlefield as a venue to introduce new ideas on how to lead people better. And combining those two things, I was a military history major at West Point, led organizations from 30 people all the way up to several thousand, and combining those two things into my job and what I get paid to do and come on podcasts to talk about is this idea of combining history and leadership and helping corporate American leaders be better leaders. That little spark there where, you get to see somebody improve or try a new technique or think about something differently, or maybe apply a process from the Army or Navy that we're able to introduce is incredibly powerful and keeps me fired up.
Got you. So it's really about the impact you're making on other leaders that you would have made when you were still in the military. It sounds like it.
Right, right. It's still, it's still kind of the same thing. You got the opportunity to give a little bit back. I was always big in the Army about growing leaders and trying to build a better group of leaders, and out here in the corporate world, trying to do the same thing.
Got you. Now you kind of alluded to it earlier. You started your business in not the best of times. The world was kind of shut down during COVID. I mean, and we know that during COVID, I mean, you couldn't go anywhere. You were stuck at home. So throughout that journey, you're still here in 2026. What's been the most frustrating part about 2020 to 2026, and how did you deal with it to get to where you are now?
Yeah. Uh, So I would say the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur, which I didn't understand getting into it, is risk tolerance.
Mm,
And I thought I was risk tolerant. I had spent 41 months in Afghanistan and Iraq. I thought, I understood risk. I did 102 parachute jumps. Uh, but I did not understand the amount of risk tolerance that you have to have as an entrepreneur, because if you don't make a sale, you may not be keeping the lights on.
mhm.
And the only way I could start my company and mentally handle it was I said, hey, I'm going to try this for 1 year. And, I'll put my website out. I'll start advertising. I'll start, asking friends. If by March of 2021, this thing isn't, doing anything, I'll close up shop and put everything away. Um, Luckily, things turned out pretty good. Second quarter, third quarter of 2020 was a barren desert. But I started to turn the corner in fourth quarter and got a couple contracts, and then first quarter kept it rolling, and all of a sudden, the business showed a little bit of signs of life, and so I said, okay, I will do this for one more year, and got to March of 2022, and things were going even better, and so I said, all right, well, this thing's working, let's keep going. But I did out in 2024, I did a pretty major pivot. I had been doing business consulting. I've really, for the most part, stopped doing business consulting and am into leadership training. And so, understanding risk tolerance as a small business owner it's a big leap. If you don't make sales, you don't keep the lights on.
You're absolutely right on that, man. We kind of kill what we eat. I kind of
Right?
say sometimes.
Yep.
so so for you, you it took you 6 months before you start to gain a little traction. It wasn't like overnight, and you're '06 retired. So I mean, I'm sure you know a ton of people. You still took 6 months to get your business up and running, and it still was a slow process going. Got a few deals here, a few deals there, to where you are now. It wasn't built in a day like most people think entrepreneurs are, right?
No, no. What is it? The the 6 year or 10 year overnight success. Nobody, uh, you know, gives credit for all those things where you've tried things and failed, or tried things and they didn't work very well, and then all of a sudden things start. You get this sort of momentum, and it starts, growing on itself. Um,
Absolutely.
I would say I still feel like that with my company, that we're one or two. I don't feel like, and maybe that's just the competitive side of me, but I don't feel like things are rolling along so smooth that I can, you know, take a breath or not be paying attention to it on a daily or weekly basis. And so, it's a challenge out there. Entrepreneur, even though you get to go on podcasts in the middle of the afternoon, I'm going to go back to work as soon as we're done, Maurice. So, it's not all
Yeah,
sunshines and rainbows.
it is. It is. Now, you mentioned something earlier. I kind of want to touch on this a little bit more. You kind of compare the risk tolerance from being 41 months in Afghanistan, Iraq to starting an entrepreneur. How do those two things correlate to each other, in your opinion?
Well, the analogy I usually use is about parachuting,
Okay.
and I did
Mhm.
102 of those. The Army puts all this entire system and processes around doing a parachute jump. You know, you do a talk through, you do some practice landings, you do some practice exits. And then finally you put your parachute on, and then somebody inspects your parachute. Then you get on the plane, and you hook up your parachute, and somebody comes through and inspects your parachute, make sure there's no problems, and then finally they say, "Hey, get in the door and go out." And there's this whole system to getting you out the door, and you have this sheer moment of terror for a couple of seconds as you're falling, and you're hoping your parachute opens, and 99.9999% of the time your parachute opens, and you end up landing on the ground, and you make sure that you don't break anything when you land.
Mhm.
Uh, but running a company is so random. There's no, you think you've got the marketing in there. I I call it when clients I call it clients come in sideways. Like, I have no idea how this client found me and, reached out to me to go to a battlefield program, or get some executive coaching, or do any of the other things that we do. And I can't track it back to, hey, this process is working, and they're coming down this really neat funnel,
Mhm.
and it's all working. You may have a business that works really well like that, but mine is not. And so uh, that's where just even the day-to-day risk tolerance is higher, because it's random.
Gotcha. So it sounds like even after 6 years as an entrepreneur, and I'm guilty of it too. You're still trying to fine tune and get your correct processes on to where you can double down on those processes to gain more business. Sounds
Right.
like it.
Well,
Absolutely.
and there's sometimes with the processes that you think that this process is working, and you double down on it, and the market tells you, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly, that that was a bad idea. So
Yeah.
I enjoy that sort of fun experimentation. Like, we were pricing things one way for the last year, and I just decided a couple weeks ago that we're going to price it a little bit differently. We're going to split
Gotcha.
out the cost of the training and the logistics, where we were trying to keep it all together into one bucket. And so, I don't know. We'll see. 6 months, the market may tell me that was a dumb idea, and I'll go back to the old way. But got to keep
Gotcha.
trying, right?
Absolutely. Got to keep trying new and different things. So now you got out back in 17. That's almost 10 years ago. Did you plug in any veteran programs, any mentor programs, communities, even after you got the job and decided to be an entrepreneur? Did you go back and plug in anything like that?
Uh, I will say I have not done it with a formal group, and
Okay.
I will say one of the things that has helped me is I have two uh, ex-military guys that did about 5 years in the service, and then got out and went and worked in corporate America. And I had befriended both of them, and last year, one of the great things that has helped me along is, uh, happenstance. I had a call with one of the guys on March 31st.
Hmm.
And we had been talking every 4 or 5 months, and the conversations were just sort of general business, kind of random mentoring kind of things, but nothing specific. And I said, why don't I put together a deck of slides and use that as a way to talk about where the business is? And so I now have these two guys that are my board, that I show the slides to every quarter. And that has really focused me, because I use the slides to run the business now
Hmm.
in the quarter. And then at the end of the quarter, I've got this really nice kind of report card that I can talk to these two guys and say, hey, what do you think? Or should, this is what I'm seeing. Do you see the same things off the numbers that I'm showing you? And that has been super, super helpful. So it's not a formal program, but I will say, any entrepreneur out there, find somebody to be your board And just the fact of having the accountability to go talk to somebody once a quarter and tell them what if it was a win or a loss is huge.
Gotcha. So now, kind of go into telling us what it is exactly you do as an entrepreneur, who do you serve, and what makes you a little bit different than a lot of other consulting firms out there.
Yeah, so we're a leadership development company. Um, we do executive coaching, keynote speeches, workshops, and then our premier event is we take corporate groups to battlefields and use that as a way, as a venue to talk about ways to improve their leadership and make better decisions in communication under uncertainty. I just had a Navy group go to Gettysburg a couple weeks ago, and
Nice.
for the first time, I got snowed on at Gettysburg. So had not had that happen before, but that was a fun part of our event. But the group got a lot on new ideas that they could take back to their little part of the Navy and be better leaders.
Gotcha. So now, where should someone go to connect with you to learn more about your business and find out how they can get services from you?
Yeah, so I'm out there on LinkedIn, both as myself, David Fivecoat, and then also as the Fivecoat Consulting Group. You can follow either one of them. We post weekly on those in each of those channels. You can DM me on LinkedIn, or you can go to our website, which is the fivecoatconsultinggroup.com. There's some forms that you can fill out to get in touch with us. We'll answer them within 24 hours and set up a meeting with you. And hopefully we're able to help you. And for your audience out there, if it's somebody wanting to make the entrepreneurial leap, I'm happy to talk to them. If they want to do some of the stuff that we talked about with their company, also happy to help them develop leaders in their company.
Thank you. So now, last question before we get out of here. Give us the one piece of advice you would give our listeners out there who are wanting to make that leap into entrepreneur. What's the one piece of advice you would give those folks?
So don't wait to get let go of your job to make that entrepreneur leap. Do it on your own terms. It is scary. There is a lot of risk out there. But the best way to figure out if you can do it is kind of jump into the deep end and figure out if you have a real business idea or the market doesn't believe that it's a business idea. And so I encourage your folks to get out there and try it, especially those folks that are listening to this that are retired and have that pension and have that cheap health care. You don't have a whole lot of reasons not to take that risk and try to build something that you can say is your own, and you can say that you built and grew a company.
Absolutely. So, seems like step out on faith is what you're telling us, and those who have a pension should have a lot of faith because they have a little safety net behind them.
Right. There's a little safety net there.
Absolutely. Hey, well, thank you, David, for joining us today on the VET S.O.S podcast. On behalf of the VET S.O.S family, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us and listening in today. You can find VET S.O.S podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, and all social media platforms as well. Make sure you subscribe and follow VET S.O.S so you don't miss anything like this. A great interview with David Fivecoat. Remember, our motto here is don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.